And welcome to another edition of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. With me, I have my comedian and co-host Jess Baker, and joining us for the first time is a fantastic dirt racer with a great Indy history in Joel Willman. Welcome both.
Hey, hey.
Good evening.
Joel, thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time. On your busy schedule as you get ready for the year here. So I'll dive right into it. I know you race in a couple different dirt series. Why don't you kind of just go through real quick what your plans are for 2018 and the different dirt series that you race in, and if there's any differences between them.
All right. I greatly appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It's a pleasure to always talk racing as well as promote everything that we do. In 2018, we're actually trying to make the switch from asphalt modified racing over to dirt late model racing, just because the fan base has tripled in attendance for each one of these dirt events. They're running anywhere between $2,000 to win to $30,000 to $80,000 to win races. So it's a great opportunity. The American Ethanol Series is based over there in Michigan, which is a great traveling series. They have a lot of great opportunities to different venues that I've never been to before. So we're kind of looking at doing that. We have some races scheduled over in Michigan to kind of showcase with our talents with those talents over there. So it's kind of nice. We also have the Dirt King Tour Series. They just initially started last year, had a huge response, some really great racing, and they're going to actually meet up in August 17th down in Wilmot Raceway in Wilmot, Wisconsin. And the both series are going to clash for the Dairyland Duo is what it is. It's going to be the best of Dairyland between the two series and see who comes out on top. So it's pretty exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I believe, especially for those who are more on the IndyCar side of things and are interested in more dirt racing, dirtvision.com is going to be live streaming a lot of different events this year. I think everything, both of the series you'll be involved in. So just another avenue for racing fans to check out some racing, which I think Jess and I have been preaching the streaming side of things for the first 7 or 8 episodes. So Joel, you have a really cool historical background that I wanted to bring up. I think is pretty neat. Your uncle Tony was the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year in the 1930s. I think 1937. Don't hold me to that one because I don't have the page in front of me right now. I'm looking at the dirt racing. But what do you know about your great uncle, and what can you tell us about your family history that goes all the way back to the 1930s in racing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fourth generation in our family, so it's kind of a big opportunity, and we've always grown up racing around racing. While my aunts raced, my uncles, my grandma, my grandpa, they all raced. I think a couple of my aunts have won some, powder puff races. So it's kind of an exciting thing. But my great uncle Tony, he actually in the early 30s, all the way up until he passed away in a racing accident in 1941 in Thompson, Connecticut. He was considered one of the best hot shoes in an open wheel car, whether it was a midget or an Indy car. And that led him to 7 starts at the Indianapolis 500, 1934, I think it was, where he was the Rookie of the Year. His highest finish was 7th. He actually is not being credited with jumping in a car as a relief driver, and I think that he finished 3rd or 4th at one time. But my Uncle Tony, he's actually, his notoriety comes from winning 150 races from one coast to the other in 1 year. He was multiple indoor champion. up there in Chicago, Fort Wayne, Indiana, when they used to race there, and a couple Bradley Center, Milwaukee. He used to race at the Milwaukee Mile when it was a horse track, and so it's kind of cool. He was a mayor. He was a mayor for a day down in South Milwaukee. That's where he was from. They have kind of a big shrine, and with all that, he got inducted into the Indianapolis Hall of Fame, National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, Open Wheel Hall of Fame, National Short Track Hall of Fame. I think there's also the Badger Midget Hall of Fame in Sun Prairie.
Yeah, you mentioned an interesting point that I always found fascinating in the early Indy 500s with relief drivers and just how different racing was in general back then, which I think is always cool. Anytime you can watch old videos that pop up, I know it's pretty rare. Especially for old Indy videos going back to the 30s. But pretty neat stuff for all the listeners out there. Definitely check out Tony Willman. Read about the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, and if you're at the Indy 500 this year, his name is on the wall at the museum. But I'll let Jess step in here with a question, racing related, or one of Jess's patented. Non-racing related questions. I'll let you take it away, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, I get kind of bored with the racing stuff. Not that I'm bored with racing, but we like to, shake things up. That's just what we do. I was going to throw in, too, for those people who are just kind of getting into IndyCar, another really cool thing to check out when the 500 first started, not only was the relief drivers, but also the riding mechanics. And you can find quite a bit on several of the riding mechanics. So that's also something kind of cool historical wise to look into if you are looking into the history of the 500. But anyways, back to you, Joel. So are you ready for some interesting questions?
I'm always ready for interesting questions. I'm kind of that way it doesn't get me bored either, so it's all good.
There you go. Okay, so the first one I'm going to ask, I'm just going to throw it out there because, it was the most fun we had with Joseph Newgarden a couple weeks ago. So if I gave you a 400-pound block of cheddar cheese,
ooh, cheddar cheese,
what would you do with it?
400 block cheddar. I'd probably carve something crazy in it.
Okay, see, a different answer already. This is going to be my patented answer or question. I mean, so what would you carve into it? And can you do that? Are you a cheese carver?
Since no, I'm not a cheese carver, but I can use my imagination. But I don't know what I'd probably carve in it. Something goofy.
All right, I like it.
I'm waiting for somebody to say. Actually, I'm not gonna give away what I hope somebody says because I don't want them to steal my idea. But for the listeners out there, the cheese party at Joseph's Shirts design will finally be released in the next couple days here. Maybe we should just make it cheese party with Team Pit Lane or something like that. Something a little more generic if we're going to make this question a staple.
I mean, we kind of have to, don't we, at this point?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to have to bug the printer and then probably push back the t-shirt design another week. So I'll step back in and go more into the racing side of here. Joel, you've raced, looking at your information here in a ton of different series and different types of cars and what have you, since you were a kid. Is there one car or series, that's really stood out to you as either, I want to continue doing that or I would love to do that again, something along those lines?
Yeah, I would probably have to say go back to Daytona in the ARCA car or even a NASCAR Xfinity car again. That was probably one of the best experiences that I ever can imagine. That's one of my bucket lists, is to get back and to do one or two races. I definitely would be in racing dirt this year if we, marketing partners come on board and allows us to do that. I'd definitely look at doing the Eldora truck race. That is definitely something I would consider a high bucket list. Just a great opportunity to mix NASCAR world with the dirt and try to do the best of both worlds right there.
Yeah, I do have to admit that was a pretty cool event, and one of the few NASCAR related events I gave a full check out to last year. How can sponsors reach out to you? Let's give you a little bit of a platform here, because I know you are looking for some more sponsors. What's the easiest way for hopefully some listeners out there that want to sponsor an aspiring dirt driver this year?
Well, definitely reach me by email at willmanracing90@gmail.com is a great way to get a hold of me and let me know. We take anything from small to large marketing partners at this point in time. We are partnered up proudly. We get the official word with 22 Until None this week. It's a veterans organization that helps stop PTSD, suicide, and gives veterans hope to understand that they're not alone in this battle. And we're going to bring a lot of veterans throughout the year to the racetracks that we race at. We'll have events throughout the year. Actually, a gentleman reached out to me after I made the announcement, and looks like we're going to be putting together a Harley charity ride coming up for them, to raise some money for that organization. So it's a pretty good opportunity that any marketing partner that comes on board with us, they'll definitely be a part of that great opportunity to continue to donate with to the 22 Until None. So I'm pretty excited about that. They can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm Joel Willman Racing. You can reach me on Twitter at JW Hollywood 90. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Joel Willman. So I'm pretty much social media crazy. So they can reach out to me pretty much at any time. So
cool. Jess, I'll let you step in with another fun one before I go back to the racing.
Boring. No, and just for you listeners who are wanting to be able to reach out to Joel, we will make sure that we follow him on Twitter and Facebook and everything. That way you guys can find him easily. So that's a good link to have. And then, of course, I have to ask the second, standard question. I mean, it's not really standard since this is only the second time, but we're going to make it a standard. So, Joel, I got to ask, what would your spirit animal be?
My spirit animal?
Yes, your spirit
probably,
animal.
Man, that's kind of a tough question. I would probably say like a horse.
All right, I like it.
I've been known to be, I've been called a horse's ass a couple times, so I think that kind of fits in.
It's all the same thing.
But
we'll go with it.
Yeah, well, I'm Sagittarius too, so yeah. Well, when you're Sagittarius and you're half horse, it kind of helps out. So
there you go.
Just so all the listeners out there do know, the 22 Until None charity that Joel will be supporting is 22, the numbers, untilnone.org, and you can find the link on our Twitter. I just posted it on there. If you're curious, it's a great cause. Any cause that helps a veteran, especially one that might be struggling, when they get back home, is something I can easily get behind. And I'm excited to see, what you guys do with the organization this year. Joel, your pick for the 2018 Indianapolis 500 champ. We're gonna make this a staple racing question for some people too. And to give you a little background, the choices that are already taken by Jess and I are Carlos Munoz and Jess. Who did you pick? Oh, Tony Kanaan. And
Yes.
our guest on the show that week, IndyCar Encyclopedia Matt Hickey, picked Helio. So I'm going to give you the pick on this one.
Well, I would probably say Danica, but since she doesn't have a ride, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go with Marco.
Okay.
Just because
Oh God.
it'd be nice to see an Andretti finally not slow down on the back straightaway. So
Wait a minute, Mike. Did you set me up on this one?
No.
Because first he said Danica.
that was that I
Marco.
yeah,
I swear to
I'm
God.
a Rekica fan. Yeah,
I-
I've been hey, Danica's been around, so now she's dating us Wisconsin folks got something to root for now. Going to a Packer game, you probably see her because now that her and Aaron Rodgers are an item. So
I'm not going to make fun of the Packers here, especially because my Eagles are in the Super Bowl in a couple days. But
don't worry, I'm a Cowboy fan too. So it's all good. You can say whatever you want.
I will give Marco a lot of credit this year. He's shown up to testing with a much improved focus over the last year. And as I've said before, as the local Pennsylvania resident or local Pennsylvania host, I'm gonna pull for Marco this year. I hope he can put it together. I think if Graham Rahal, who struggled for 5 or 6 years, or maybe even longer than that, after he had his first win at Long Beach in 2008, I think it's not too late. Marco's 29, 30, so he's still got time, and like you, Joel, I think he could do it, especially in this new car. Danica will be an interesting one. Like I said to Jess last week, in one way or another, she always comes up in every one of our episodes so far.
Literally every single one.
So I think we must be doing. We should be on the side of Danica's car just because we've given her all of this free advertising. If it ends up that she ends up at Dreyer and Reinbold, which curiously there is still no announcement a week after they said they were going to make an announcement. I think she'll be competitive. It's going to be a tough field this year. But, considering that everybody's going to be in the car with a new aero kit, and you really aren't going to know how the car is going to behave there until you have that first week of practice, it could be, it could be an open field. So who knows? Jess, I'll turn it over to you.
I think I'm going to actually ask a racing question. Weird, I know, but I'm just curious. I know you're just kind of getting into the dirt side of things, but what is your favorite track besides Daytona, since you've already mentioned that one, that you have raced at?
Well, best track I would say would be Beaver Dam Raceway Park. They don't run the dirt late models there anymore, but I raced down there with the dirt modified, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, that track is a lot of fun, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going back to dirt. I mean, I ran the dirt modified for a little while, and we ran a couple midgets and sprint cars early on in my career, but I look at it where running a dirt late model, I can go to a lot of these tracks that are on TV now, but a lot of tracks that I grew up watching and going to, now I could actually have the opportunity to drive on them. And, like Eldora, go to Knoxville, Tennessee with a National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. Nothing more would be pretty cool just for me to make it to that track and just race on it, knowing that, I got, just over my shoulder, and the museum is, a family member, and it's just kind of a history thing. You know, I kind of like to race where history has been, you know, got us to this point in the sport to what it is today. I mean, there's so much groundwork from open wheel midgets to Indy cars to, you know, dirt late models. It just grew, and you know, you got to kind of, as a 44-year-old guy, I got to kind of get back to the sport that, you know, kind of has been in our family forever. So that's kind of my thought on that whole situation.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I'd want to, you know, try to stick with what your family has done too. It's pretty cool history that you can look back on.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and
yeah. So sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say, I think it's, you know, dirt racing has really started to pick up a little bit more in popularity over the last couple of years, and you know, there's dirt events at you know, all of the tracks surrounding the Philadelphia area, Williams Grove and Sealands Grove and New Egypt over in New Jersey, just to name a few. That, you know, there's definitely plenty of chances to race and plenty of chances to get those sponsors seen on the side of that car, right?
absolutely. You know, I mean, when you're running, I mean, if you look at the dirt series, like American Ethanol, they're running, you know, 24 races, I believe it is. Their schedule is. Dirt Kings has got 12 races, but there's just a lot of opportunities. You can go and race on a Lucas Oil series or the World of Outlaw series, you know, by Craftsman. Those guys are, you know, they're running 64 races a year. They're starting here next week, actually, down in Florida, and they don't end up until November, I think it is, or end of October, November, when their last series race is. And now, coming up in 2018 here, we're running, they moved midgets to the St. Louis Dome race, which has been the last 2 years, has just been strictly dirt late models and you know, modified. So now they're going to add the midgets to that. So it's going to be kind of a prelude to the Chili Bowl, is what it looks like it's going to end up being. And so, I mean, it's just a great opportunities to grow. And I mean, when you're seeing payouts of $50,000 to $100,000 on some events, you're getting anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000 people standing room only at some of these tracks. It's crazy. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, 64 races in a year makes me tired just thinking about it. But you know, the more opportunity, the better. And if you know, I was able to race 64 times a year, I certainly would be doing so too. But if we're gonna go off of my dirt racing ability on iRacing, you don't want me anywhere near a track. And with that, making fun of myself, I will give Jess a chance to ask a question.
Mike, how about we just make it like your goal to maybe get to like 10 dirt races this year?
I am, you know, anybody who lives in the Pennsylvania region and is either going to a dirt race or knows of a dirt race, please send it to me. I will attend every single one that is humanly possible, as long as I don't have a wedding to go to or my wife doesn't have something planned that I don't know about. So yeah, that's my challenge to everybody out there who's listening. And if you you know, give me a suggestion on a race to go to, I'll send you a free pit lane parlay sticker or something, some sort of little giveaway as a thank you.
And by the way, not on the show, but in the background, I have already told him several dirt races he needs to go to. So just saying, he has been told that he needs to go to some dirt tracks.
But you don't win a prize. You don't win a giveaway for telling me to go to a race.
Well, that's crappy.
Because I'm going to send them to you anyway. Moving on.
Okay, so it's my turn. I'm sorry. Yes, I just got off track there.
That's fine.
Oh, let's see. Let me think of a good random question. I mean, I like to stick with the ones we've kind of used because they're good. They make you think a little bit. So I'm going to go with if you could have dinner with 3 people, any 3 people, dead or living, from any era, who would you have dinner with and why?
Wow. Probably, I would say, hmm, that's actually a pretty interesting question. And I would say, um, a Dale Earnhardt for sure. Just I would say that. Probably I would bring my uncle Tony back for sure, to kind of look back on from how things were from his day to what they are today, and really pick his brain and kind of figure out why he was so successful, because I need to get successful because I'm not so successful at times. So and he's just an awesome guy, and and Dale Earnhardt. I mean, he was just a man's man, a champion. He was the blue collar worker, and everybody looked up to him, and just kind of just see how he looked at different things, from hunting to just racing, and how he became, he blew up his business in such an opportunity. And the last one would be Tony Stewart. I would throw Smoke in there without a doubt, because he's so diversified, from owning racetracks, owning race car teams, dirt and asphalt. It's to just a great around guy. He just seems so down to earth. I see his dad all the time up here in Wisconsin. He comes up and races his little legend car up here, and it's kind of cool to see Nelson up here racing. And I've talked to him a couple times, and he seems really, really down to earth. So I can only imagine what Tony would be like if you had him behind closed doors. So
That's a great list.
Here's a fun fact about Tony Stewart that a lot of people don't know. Up until he built his mega house in Columbus with his fishing lake and all of everything he's got now, which was only, gosh, I don't know, 8 years ago. I mean, it wasn't very long ago. Up until that point in time, he actually still lived in the house that he grew up in as a baby. So I think that's a really interesting fact. It's a very telling fact. Still had a lot of the same neighbors. Thought that was a pretty cool little piece of information about him.
Yeah, that's
that's awesome, because the Rushville Rocket, So I mean, he's just an icon, and it's just one of them. He's just one of them guys that he's been through the success. He's overcome it all, and I think he's showing that he's a lot smarter. And I mean, he's just one of them guys that I think is he's part of history. So he's going to be a Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I did read somewhere that I think it might have been Marshall Pruitt interviewed him around the Chili Bowl time, saying that Tony Stewart said he had somebody offered him an Indy 500 ride, and one, I think that would be really cool. Obviously, Tony Stewart is an amazing race car driver, but two, I'm wondering, Tony's a little bit bigger than he was when he last fit in an Indy car. And I'm just wondering if that is possible, and how much of a. I would be really curious, and I don't know the scientifics behind this because that's just not my strength. If he could fit in an Indy car, how much would his size slow him down versus somebody tiny like this is gonna sound like I'm making fun of him, but like Gabby Chavez, who's a tiny dude. Yeah, obviously we'll probably never know the answer to that. I hope Tony stays involved in the 500, and it would be cool if he raced, but I don't think that one will happen.
It would be cool.
Well,
I would be very happy to see it again.
I would say he's no bigger than AJ Foyt was when he was racing. So
that's true.
I mean, AJ was no small turkey either.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So Tony Stewart, come on down. Let's add to that list of people coming back and racing an IndyCar this year, like Danica. It would be that. Could you imagine a starting three of man? Who would you pick? Three drivers that used to be in IndyCar that aren't to race in this year's 500. Let's spitball this topic out of nowhere. I'm sorry, Jess, we didn't plan for this one, but it got me thinking. Tony Stewart, we'll go Tony Stewart, and we'll go Danica since it's most likely happening. And what about that third pick? I'll give you guys both an answer.
Well, has Kurt Busch decided to come back to try running?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't really heard him talk about
That'd be
All right,
yeah.
so
I mean, Kurt Busch did an amazing job. So
yeah, he did very well. Jess got a pick.
I'd like to see Alonso back. I mean, my gosh, he did so good last year, and he put on such a show, and it was so good for the sport. I would love to see him come back.
Yeah, I think that one will happen. Not this year. Obviously, he said it's not going to happen this year, but I think it could definitely happen next year. But in the spirit of choosing, I think I'll go with Dario. His career got cut short, unfortunately, with that crazy accident. I would love to see him race again. He's always fun to watch. So yeah, I'll go with Dario to round it out here. And circling back to Alonso, I did find it funny. The man he really immerses himself in whatever he's racing in. Like you saw him take the IndyCar and on his little electric skateboard around the track every day, talking to any fan possible, and which is very cool to see. And then at the Rolex 24 event at Daytona this weekend, was frustrated with their balance of performance rules and regulations, and really just to me that shows that he just wasn't there to race and move on right away. He wants to learn and understand and be the best racer possible. And really get to understand the rules, and I don't myself fully understand the balance of performance sports car racing rules, but I like the fact that he called out IMSA on that one. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, he definitely displaced his displeasure with them. And I think too, another driver to kind of throw out there too is AJ Allmendinger. He's so diversified from running Indy cars to stock cars to going to the Rolex and doing well. So I would definitely say he's one of them guys that would be cool to see back in IndyCar too.
Yep, I agree with that one. And hopefully we get to see Townsend Bell back at some point. He's been pretty competitive the last handful of years, and was disappointed to see that somebody broke into his house in the middle of the Rolex 24 and steal a bunch of his Indy 500 rings. Hopefully those get returned soon. But moving on here, Jess, did you have any other questions, or should we get to our news segment and wrap it up with the pitfall of the week?
Well, not really a question, just kind of a, you know me. I Google things. When you tell me things or say something that kind of makes me question things, I Google it. So I Googled Gabby Chavez's weight and Tony Stewart's weight. And there's a 41-pound difference there. And then I went to the rule book, no joke. I actually read the rule book while we were sitting here talking. And so the minimum weight does not include the driver. So there would be a difference there. But I still think Tony Stewart would outdrive him even with the weight differential.
Yeah, and that's no knock on Gabby Chavez's talent and hopefully growing talent.
Absolutely not. But my God, Tony will drive the wheels off anything.
I think Tony would be similar to how Kurt Busch came in a couple years ago and ended up finishing sixth and was pretty competitive outside of, I think he had a practice crash one day.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I knew I wasn't crazy about that.
No.
So and he finished sixth in the race, and I think Tony Stewart would immediately be a top 10 contender. So thank you, Jess, for that little bit of information and on the
Yeah,
fly
no problem.
on the fly research. That's why you're part of the team here. So moving on now that we're at the almost a 37-minute mark.
Shout out to Google on that one.
Yes, thank you, Google. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can reach us on social media at Pit Lane Parlay, Parley. So I'm gonna have to find a way to send this to Google, although they're probably listening in somehow.
Oh, I'm sure.
My weekly thank you to Jay Fry is going to include hiring the guy who led Toyota racing development for NASCAR the last couple years, and Toyota won the NASCAR Monster Energy Series and whatever it was the year before that championships. In Darren Sansom, I think if you can get a guy with this pedigree to lead your overall engine program as we get to a point where IndyCar might be adding a third manufacturer, I think is fantastic. A fantastic hire. Seems like a great guy. He's worked for, obviously Toyota Racing, like I just said. He's worked for Ford, Cosworth, Ilmore in the past, and has been around the IndyCar paddock before as a development engineer back in the early 2000s. So pretty cool, and seems like a passionate guy. So I don't know what you guys think about that one, but I'm very happy to see it. And obviously, again, hats off to Jay Fry for continuing a strong off season.
Heck yes. Cannot knock
I think it's a great
anything he's doing.
No, he's definitely showed what he's worth, and no matter where he goes, he makes a difference. And it's a great opportunity, I think, for IndyCar to grow as well. I think every year it seems like they're getting it together to where the fans are coming back to see more IndyCar racing than in years past. So a big shout out for that.
Yeah, for sure. Jess, anything else on that, or should I move on? Oh, is Jess on mute? All right, so I'll move on.
She's probably Googling.
Yeah, she's probably
Googling.
Nope. Hey, there you guys are. Sorry, I lost you.
So I'll continue on here. I wanted to give another hats off to Ray Hall, Lanigan Letterman Racing, or Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan, one or the other, or both. For continuing, in a time where it seems like some cars and teams are struggling to find sponsorship, announced a partnership and sponsorship with Total Oil, which was on Bobby Rahal's car when he won his third IndyCar championship in 1992, I believe. So pretty big sponsorship to get. First off, especially for not only for sponsoring a race, livery on the car one race, but a team partnership for the year. But on the conference call yesterday, mentioned that they had more sponsorships to announce. So Bobby Rahal mentioned they put more effort into their sales and marketing team. So whoever they're hiring must be some great salesmen, because they are completely hitting a home run on everything they do. So little hats off there. And I did want to highlight one comment from Graham, for those who didn't see Marshall Pruitt's article on Racer about it. A lot of what Jess and I have talked about in terms of this off-season testing so far, for those who maybe didn't listen to the first couple episodes, was that guys who weren't chosen for the manufacturer testing early on weren't happy. Graham Rahal said, well, listen, it's not time to make excuses, and it's time to buckle down and just work hard. One, bravo for that. And two, he said, well, listen, we were still faster than the Schmidt-Peterson guys in Sebring anyway. Two, fantastic comment, and I thought it was hilarious. Don't know if it's true, but I like the confidence, and a little trash talk in IndyCar is never a bad thing. So I'll turn it over to you, Jess, for your thoughts on that. But bravo, and I like Rahaal's fiery attitude.
Trash talk is the best. I mean, just look at Fantasy IndyCar.
Yes.
That's all we do. So trash talk is definitely needed. I think it'll, make people kind of want to listen to what everybody's saying now. So I'm all for it. Sometimes he gets a little out of line, I think, but I think that was perfectly fine. And yeah, like you said, it's just funny.
Yeah, and continuing on the announcement stream, Schmidt Peterson. Speaking of Schmidt Peterson, their car unveiled today. I thought it was a pretty neat concept. Just to drive a little bit of buzz in a quiet week before testing really ramps up next week with a bunch of cars at Sonoma and then everybody at Phoenix next weekend. Not the most exciting live stream of something I've ever watched, but still fun, and something cool. And for those who weren't able to watch it, I've retweeted it on the podcast Twitter page and on the Facebook page if you have a Facebook account. With that, it's time for everybody's favorite pit lane pitfall, and I will. Jess, you want to start it out?
Yeah, I'll start it. Okay, so this week I've had multiple conversations about my topic in the past, but I have on this topic. My pitfall goes to F1, and it's because of the whole grid girls getting fired. Now, it's not necessarily because the grid girls are getting fired that I get business decision, whatever. It's the way that they went about doing it and basically tucking their tail and saying, we have to get with the times and it's so degrading, and I just don't see it. And maybe it's because I did that kind of work. I wasn't a grid girl, but I did promotional modeling for about 11 years, and I never felt degraded. And if I would have stopped doing it. So I think it's very frustrating that they're kind of using that as their out. And if it's true that they're doing it because they don't want to get poo-pooed for having grid girls, I think that's kind of silly too, because, not all of them are nearly naked. In fact, most of them are pretty fairly clothed. So I just think it's silly, and I think it's just causing a big uproar for virtually no reason.
Yeah, I pretty much completely agree with you on this one. I also found it interesting, just to add on to your comment. I saw a few recent grid girls tweet, "I never had a problem with it." So if they never had a problem with it and weren't complaining, then shame on you, F1, for using that as a reason when there's obviously there's more to it. Joel, any thoughts?
Well, they probably have a job over in the Monster Energy. It seems like Monster Energy, no matter where they're promoting, whether it's Indy cars, off-road racing, or now NASCAR, they got them at the track. And a lot of the people were really upset about the Monster Energy girls being around, but at the same time, for years they always had Miss Winston. There has always been Linda Vaughn, huge supporter for IndyCar racing. Miss her shifter. I mean, so these people they forget that there's always been a woman or women that have been in that kind of line of work forever. So I just say roll with it and keep them, because it's good for its entertainment value and definitely keeps people coming to the track.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll wrap it up with my pit lane pitfall in just right now. I'm gonna pit lane pitfall the Formula E car design, only because yeah, I don't really. It looks like a weird. I'm gonna say a weird, Batmobile. I think that's kind of the best way to describe it. It just looks like a strange Batmobile. Doesn't quite look like an open wheel car, especially with the front wheels and rear wheels pretty much covered, which was the big knock on the IndyCar. And obviously, thankfully, the IndyCar team, changed that up. So I'm not super thrilled with the look of it. I've watched a few Formula E races, and the racing is good despite them being a little bit slower. So we shall see how it is on the track. I know the talk is the Formula E
Hello.
car. The Formula E car is supposed to be much faster this year and remove the need for a driver change mid-race, which I think should make the racing a little more competitive. But the car design itself, I know, along with many other people, aren't super thrilled with it. It's just I'm definitely not a fan, and I'm gonna add on to my pit lane pitfall for the week because I'm very frustrated today. Not to sound like I'm super cranky, but a slightly breaking news article that came out maybe about an hour or so before we went on air here is that the Fuji track wants to change their WEC sports car racing date to accommodate Fernando Alonso, so there is no clash with, I believe, the race at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. I get it. You want to draw some extra fans in by bringing Fernando Alonso, but asking a racing series to change their date, when the racing season is about to start, I just feel like, there's a lot more factors than just, well, can you move the date to consider, because moving the date then affects other people. So hopefully WEC just says, Fuji, be happy with the date you have and, move on with it. So, to recap, my pit lane pitfall is the strange looking Formula E car and the ridiculous promo photos that came out with it, and the Fuji track for the WEC race. And with that, unless I missed anything, again, let's give Joel a platform. Joel, do you want to just recap where a potential sponsor or anybody can reach out to you to chat about racing?
Yeah, they definitely can reach me on Twitter at JWHollywood90. You can reach me by email at willmanracing90@gmail.com. I would give you my phone number, but I probably will get a bunch of prank phone calls. So, just reach me on email, Facebook, Joel Willman, Joel Willman Racing. I got 2 pages there. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. We are taking all serious marketing partners, small and large, that want to be a part of coming on board with us for the 2018 series. And I am making a deal with any marketing partner that comes on board. We're going to give a percentage of your partnership right off the bat, right to 22 until none, to keep that going. And I'm just very grateful for DirtNet, sponsoreddrivers.com, as well as Super Clean, Cool Towels. These are some of the marketing partners that have been involved with us, the last couple of years, that have, kind of came on board, and they can only do so much. So we really look forward to having more people support our veterans and support me, as I am a U.S. Army Airborne Medic veteran as well, non-combat, but I did serve as well. So you have a veteran driver, and you have a veteran team raising money. So just contact me any way that they feel need to.
Yeah, that's definitely an amazing story. And again, for those who forgot earlier in this episode, it's 22 as in the numbers until none.org. And with that, Jess, do you want to do our typical wrap up?
Of course. Guys, keep your lug nuts tight.